Greetings! My name is Kim Graham, and I am an instructional designer with Auburn University Human Resources Development.
And I'm Moriah Kent, also an instructional designer with Auburn University's Human Resource Development. In addition to our work as instructional designers, we are the creators and coordinators for the Supervisor Pathways Program, a program designed to provide Auburn University supervisors with meaningful knowledge, skills, and behaviors necessary to be an effective manager and a developer of others.
Our Pathways program includes a range of classes that are free and open to all faculty and staff over a 2-year schedule. To complete the path, our participants need to attend a full-day Supervisor Pathways orientation, which includes a course on management fundamentals, complete 26 classes, participate in a year-long community of practice, and complete a Pathways project, which connects coursework and learnings to operations or process improvement in the participant's current position.
Today we'll spend some time sharing our story about getting this program off the ground, all while during a pandemic. Through interviews and listening sessions hosted on campus and across the country, Auburn University asked hundreds of students, parents, alumni, donors, faculty, staff, Alabama citizens, legislators, and industry partners to communicate their vision of Auburn University in 20 years and the actions needed to realize that vision.
Out of this, Auburn's 5-year strategic plan was born. Goal number 4, exceptional and engaged faculty and staff, as well as goal number 6, operational excellence, includes a focus on increased training and professional development for supervisors. Additionally, 17 members of campus administration expressed supervisor development as a top priority for the Human Resource Development Department.
Within 2 years, Auburn HR had brought Director Bill Shannon on board, as well as 2 instructional designers, us, to create and implement a training program for supervisors in answer to the strategic plan.
From the very beginning, we knew we needed more than just classes. Bill, Moriah, and I had struggled for some time with the idea that many Auburn employees would take HRD classes, participate for an hour or 2, and then go back to their jobs without any application or idea of behavior or learning change. We wanted more for our supervisors. We wanted a well-rounded approach to adult learning, so we created an adult learning model we like to call SIM, which stands for Community, Instruction, and Mastery. We wanted a program of study that built community where participants network and learn from each other, provided quality instruction in which many are able to learn at their own pace, and required participants to demonstrate mastery through a project.
Let's start with the I of our SIM model, instruction. In 2017, when Bill Shannon was introduced as director of AU HRD, the only classes in place for supervision were outdated and without direction. He quickly created a series of courses that built from basics to fundamentals dealing with supervision, management, coaching, and building teams. Additionally, we had 8 legal foundations classes that were out of date and being taught face-to-face once a semester.
I was brought on board in early 2018 and Moriah joined our team in 2019. Our first tasks were to convert the legal foundation classes to e-learning. Due to time constraints and the amount of work that needed to be completed, we took advantage of the swift authoring capabilities of Articulate Rise. In a very brief 2 years' time, Moriah and I were able to convert and build over 20 classes.
With Bill's new classes and the updated content and format of the Legal Foundations classes, we now had a foundation upon which to build a learning pathway for aspiring, new, and current Auburn supervisors. We wanted the courses to build on knowledge. Therefore, we divided them into parts: a core, intermediate, and a series of electives taken later. We wanted participants to take the core classes within the first 6 months of being in the program. This is approximately 13 hours of combined e-learning and instructor-led coursework. Ideally, the intermediate section of classes would be taken within the first year. This is approximately 8 hours. Then, in the second year, participants take 2 classes that coordinate with their Pathways project, which we'll talk about later, as well as 5 electives centered around leadership, supervision, communication, and teamwork.
Again, we wanted more than just classes, we wanted social and experiential learning. We worked with Bill to add 2 more sections to the pathway that would add the elements needed to create a well-rounded learning program. This is where we talk about the C and M of the CIM or SIM model.
Let's talk more about our C, community. According to Wenger, 1998, communities of practice provide 5 critical functions. They educate by collecting and sharing information related to questions and issues of practice, support by organizing interactions and collaboration among members, cultivate by assisting groups to start and sustain their learning, encourage by promoting the work of members through discussion and sharing, and integrate by encouraging members to use their new knowledge for real change in their own work.
This is exactly what we needed for learning to continue once a class was over. At the time, there were no communities of practice at Auburn. This was a new concept for all of us. How would it work? How do we create a sense of community amongst so many members spread out across the state of Alabama?
We decided to divide participants into cohorts of 20, who would spend a year in weekly discussions, as well as have the opportunity to build a repository of resources and network with other supervisors across campus. Even prior to COVID, we knew it would be almost impossible to meet face-to-face with so many people. We needed a tool to build our community. Our LMS doesn't currently provide a social learning tool, so we looked into social media and using private Facebook groups. However, many people don't use social media and there were security concerns. We looked into purchasing a subscription to a social learning hub, but we had a bare bones budget. However, once we spoke with our IT department, we discovered we already had a great tool at our disposal: Teams. We created a Supervisor Pathways team and then created a separate channel for each cohort. Teams allowed for announcements, calendars, polling, file storage, and our vital weekly discussions.
Last but certainly not least, we knew we ultimately wanted Supervisor Pathways to be a formally certified program with the university. In order for that to happen, there would need to be some type of governance or assessment to prove learning took place. Rather than create a giant quiz, we decided to add the M of mastery to our SIM model. A Pathways project that applies what was learned from courses as well as their time in the community of practice into a project that solves a problem or creates positive process change in a participant's current department or role. The project, once complete, would be presented to their peers in the Pathways program for defense and approval.
Now that we had the program in place and ready for piloting, we needed participants. We started with a look and brand of Supervisor Pathways, as well as marketing materials. We worked with our communications specialist, Patrick Johnston, to create a website with basic information, as well as an online form connected to Smartsheets for registration. At the time, Smartsheets was a perfect tool because we could sort participants by department and group them into diverse cohorts based on their status as a new, established, or aspiring supervisor.
We wanted to pilot with 50 Auburn employees, so we opened registration in October of 2019. But within 1 hour, we surpassed our desired number of 50 to pilot the program. We finally closed registration 4 hours later with a whopping 200 registrants. To say we were overwhelmed is an understatement. We underestimated the desire and need that our employees had for a program like this. It was now time to fish or cut bait.
We divided the 200 participants into 10 cohorts of 20 people each, with half starting the program in the spring of 2020 and the other half starting in the fall of 2020. We held 6 face-to-face day-long orientations in January through March. The orientations featured 10 facilitators from each department of HR, each with 20 minutes to give the participants a working overview of the essential functions of their HR unit, with the role of the supervisor being at the core of the conversation. Additionally, we covered the expectations of the Pathway program, as well as gave a live tutorial on Microsoft Teams. The second half of orientation featured the Management Fundamentals class taught by Bill. So how did our first year go?
From January to the first week of March, we successfully oriented 6 cohorts. Participants were getting the hang of Microsoft Teams and taking classes on the path. Moriah and I were getting used to our dual role as program coordinators in addition to our work as instructional designers. Then, mid-March 2020, COVID-19 forced Auburn University to move into an alternate operations model, with most university operations conducted remotely. This move took place literally overnight. To continue supporting Auburn, HRD's previously face-to-face courses were moved to Zoom as virtual synchronous learning. Moriah and I found ourselves having to train facilitators on teaching virtually, as well as moderating their classes for troubleshooting purposes.
Additionally, as departments learned how to transition and expand into an online environment, our Pathways participants called for accommodation as they navigated this challenging time. Our answer was to create a video addressing all 200 participants announcing that we would suspend mandatory engagement in the community of practice, but we would continue to post weekly content and be available to support participants, encourage them to focus on taking courses, and consult on their project development. We continued this way until the university moved into modified operations in August of 2020. At that time, as with any good pilot, we reevaluated all aspects of the Pathways program. We looked at what was working for us, as well as asked for feedback from participants on how the program could better support their needs. We restructured in a few places based on this new information. Before the fall semester began, we held a Zoom forum we called the Supervisor Pathways Refresh.
Some of the adjustments we communicated included changes for the community of practice. For example, clarified written expectations in our syllabus of what community of practice engagement should look like, as well as requiring a specific number of engagements, 25 for COVID-affected cohorts and 42 for all other cohorts. We developed a tracking method of engagement done by hand at the end of each month using Teams activity information input into a shared Excel document. We implemented moderators and teams to help us manage cohorts by fostering cohort discussions and motivating active participation in their community of practice, as well as acting as an intermediary between the community of practice and us, the Supervisor Pathways coordinators.
We also made instruction changes. We shortened the program from 3 to 5 years to 2 years and asked that 5 electives be completed rather than 13 to better streamline and manage program engagement and completion. We also made some project changes. Using the free version of Calendly, we set up times when participants could book a one-on-one guidance meeting with us over Zoom or Teams to talk about program questions and project ideas. A continuous improvement form was created and added to the Supervisor Pathways project guide to better help participants on how to complete a project with planning, implementation, and reflection, as many have never taken on a project of this magnitude, much less managed one.
These changes help to clarify the program and our expectations. We also transitioned our full-day face-to-face orientation into a completely online event via Zoom. We welcomed an additional 6 cohorts in the fall of 2020.
By the time we welcomed another 7 cohorts with 300 total participants in early 2021, we had reached our goal of having a university-certified program, which means that our participants who complete the program receive both tangible and intangible rewards. Most notably, Pathways certificate holders who apply for a supervisory role within Auburn University will receive 6 months of supervisory experience credit. This credit will be counted by employment services towards meeting minimum supervisory requirements and by compensation along with the hiring department for determining a salary if a position offer is extended.
While we are just now starting our second year of Supervisor Pathways, you can learn a lot in a year, especially one filled with every roadblock imaginable and unimaginable. Through post-evaluations provided at the end of both virtual and e-learning classes, we learned that 98% of participants rated their overall satisfaction with their courses as good to excellent. 97% of participants found their courses to be useful. 98% of participants responded with the likelihood that they will utilize what they learned in their classes in their day-to-day job. And 98% liked Bill, and they found his classes to be particularly effective.
We also have 6 cohorts who have completed their year in the community of practice. The post-evaluation data has shown that 75% of respondents think Supervisor Pathways helped them to build relationships and network with others. 100% of respondents agreed that Supervisor Pathways provided and helped them build needed supervisory resources. 96% of respondents felt that the Pathways leveraged supervisor techniques to improve performance, and 100% of respondents agreed that Supervisor Pathways helped them build knowledge, sharing, and learning into work life.
As of today, we've not had anyone complete a Pathways project, but over 100 are currently in the process of being completed, from creating succession planning training programs to entirely new processes for the submission and monitoring of federal grants. Supervisor Pathways participants are creating positive change at Auburn University. It is our hope to create a video series on these projects and the people who completed them.
Through brainstorming and listening to our participants, we will continue to make adjustments in the coming year. While there are no changes in the classes or the project, we want to have at least 5 to 10 projects completed before we make any updates. We do have quite a few additions coming to the community practice, including a curated calendar that covers a wide range of supervision and leadership topics with an even greater emphasis on diversity and inclusion, the ability for participants to self-track engagement numbers. We're encouraging participants to be more accountable for their success in the program.
We have a new Ask the Expert series. Once a quarter, we will feature a scenario-based discussion topic and follow up the discussion at the end of the week with a mini seminar from an expert on that topic. For example, in January, we introduced a week of ethics scenarios and followed it up with a live discussion with Kristen Roberts, a specialist with Auburn University's Office of Audit, Compliance, and Privacy. Last but not least, we learned that not everyone will make it in our program. While this is disappointing, we learned that for members in the community of practice to be successful and engaged, everyone needs to participate. So we created a 3-strike system.
This system includes using the monthly tally of each member's meaningful engagements in their cohort to track participation as a benchmark, because after 2 complete months in the community of practice, each member should have at least 6 engagements. If a member has less than 6 meaningful engagements, they will receive a warning email from us about our concerns. This is strike 1. If after 3 complete months in the community of practice, the member has less than 10 engagements, they will receive a probation email and a request for a meeting. This is strike 2. If by the end of 4 months the member does not have 14 engagements, they will be notified of their removal from the program for lack of participation. This is strike 3. Additionally, if at any point a member has 25% or below engagement for a single month, the 3-strike system will be initiated as well.
But if you don't believe us, listen to a few of our participants.
I'm excited to know that there are many on campus that seek to be part of a positive change, because while change can be scary, it is always a learning opportunity. I say kudos to everyone for making this program such a success. Even with the challenges of remote operations, we stayed together and supported each other. Being a participant in this program was one of the best experiences of my 16 years at Auburn.
I genuinely appreciate Auburn's recognition that we can do better when it comes to taking care of our people. We do this by empowering and informing those in leadership positions. I find it parallel to the "we've always done it this way" versus "how can we do this better?" I think I got that right, Kim. It could be easy for Auburn to simply say, "this is the way we've always done it here." But there was a recognition that maybe there's a better way, and with Kim and Moriah's strong leadership and support, they moved the proverbial ball forward.
The fact that I am not alone in this role is the most impressive part of this program. Before Supervisor Pathways, I was almost regretting my recent promotion to supervisor. I felt like more of an outcast than a supervisor. When the Supervisor Pathway Program opportunity arrived in my inbox, I knew I needed to take advantage. Best decision. Not only have I learned how to be a leader from listening to others in this group, but a role model as well.
At the end of the day, our fervent goal and hope is to see Auburn supervisors properly trained, with an emphasis on customer service, collaboration, communications, transparency, and proactivity.
Bringing it all back to our original plan, meeting the mandate asked of us by Auburn leadership in the 2019-2024 strategic plan.
Moriah and I are so incredibly proud of the program we built from scratch over the last 2 years. And while we have a long way to go, we've already seen a positive impact on campus.
It's a tremendous undertaking and a labor of love for sure, but the benefits we've already seen make us hopeful for the future. Please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions at hrpathways@auburn.edu.
Thanks for your time and for listening to our story.